Okay, so picture this. You're heading into a watch party for the Crystal Palace Brentford match.
Right.
And you want to impress your friends with some, like, next level analysis, not just, the basic stuff.
Yeah.
So we're going to do a deep dive into this Premier League clash.
Right.
Using some awesome pre-match analysis that you've provided for us.
Excellent.
And we're going to try and unpack all the little narratives and all the tactics and try and predict the unpredictable.
Sounds good. Yeah. I mean, this is a fascinating one.
Yeah.
It's one of those classic kind of, contrasting fortunes type of stories.
Oh, really? How so?
Well, you've got Crystal Palace, who are absolutely flying at the moment, and then you've got Brentford, who seem to be struggling a little bit.
So let's start with Palace then. 3 wins in a row without conceding a goal.
That's right. Yep.
I mean, that's pretty impressive form. I mean, at the start of the season, they were looking like relegation contenders, and now they're like, nobody wants to play them.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they've only lost 2 of their last 14 league games. Yeah. Which is a remarkable turnaround.
It is, and I guess it just goes to show how unpredictable the Premier League can be.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Form early on in the season doesn't always tell the full story.
Right.
Palace have clearly found their groove now.
Yeah.
And, climbing out of that relegation zone shows real resilience.
Absolutely. And, of course, this isn't just any match.
Yeah.
It's a London derby.
Exactly.
Which always adds a bit of extra spice to the occasion.
Definitely some bragging rights at stake.
Yeah, for sure. So Palace could actually win back-to-back London derbies.
Wow.
For the first time in almost 6 years.
Okay.
Talk about a chance to make history.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, Brentford will be looking to stop that, of course.
Right.
I mean, they'll be hoping to secure their first league double over Palace.
Okay.
Since the 1955-56 season.
Wow, so that's been a while.
Yeah, a long wait for those bragging rights. Yeah.
Absolutely. And for anyone who might not know what a league double is,
right?
It's basically when you win both the home and away fixtures.
Exactly. Yeah, against the same opponent.
Against the same opponent in a season.
In a season.
Okay, so high stakes indeed.
Definitely.
But let's talk about Brentford's recent struggles a little bit, particularly their away form.
Okay.
They haven't won in their last 6 visits to Selhurst Park.
Yeah.
Which is Palace's home ground.
That's right.
It's almost like they've got this Selhurst Park hoodoo hanging over them. I've been to a few matches there, and the atmosphere can be absolutely electric. Really intimidating for the away team. Do you think that plays a factor?
I think it must do. Yeah. I mean, the crowd at Selhurst Park can really get behind their team and make it difficult for the opposition. And I think tactically as well. Right. Brentford like to play this possession-based style of football. And I think the tighter pitch at Selhurst Park and the way Palace press so aggressively might disrupt that.
Right. So Palace have kind of cracked the code for how to make their home turf a real fortress.
Yeah, they seem to have. Yeah.
Okay, then there's this whole thing about Brentford and their struggles on Sundays.
Oh, yeah.
They've lost 5 of their last 6 matches on a Sunday.
Really? Wow.
Now, I know some people might think that's just a coincidence.
Yeah.
But I'm wondering if there could be something more to it.
Interesting.
Like maybe their style of play, which is very high pressing, very energetic.
Yeah.
Maybe that leads to fatigue later in the week.
Oh, I see.
And they're just more vulnerable on Sundays.
That's a good point. Yeah. I mean, player fatigue could definitely be a factor, especially given how demanding Brentford's style is. But it is interesting, though, that their one win on a Sunday during that run came against who else? Crystal Palace.
Ah, okay. So maybe it's less about the day of the week.
Right.
And more about the specific matchup.
It could be, yeah.
So maybe that's our wild card then. That throws all the predictions out the window.
Yeah, maybe.
Now let's move on to some of the players to watch.
Okay.
Eze has been absolutely on fire for Palace recently.
He has, yeah.
Goal or assist in 5 straight games.
It's impressive.
He's become their real creative spark.
Yeah, he's a real talent.
Do you think he can keep that form going against Brentford, though?
Oh, that's the big question, isn't it? Because Brentford have got a very strong defense.
Right.
They're well organized. They don't give away much space.
Okay.
So it's going to be a real test for Eze.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
And what about Brentford?
Well, for Brentford, I think Wasaw is the one to watch.
Okay.
He's kind of become their late game specialist.
Really?
Yeah. His last 3 goals have all come after the 80th minute.
Wow. Talk about a knack for dramatic finishes.
Yeah, he certainly knows how to make an impact.
And I guess if Brentford find themselves chasing a goal late on, he could be the one to turn things around.
he could be, yeah, he adds a different dimension to their attack.
Right.
And Palace will need to be very aware of him.
Okay, so I've saved the most intriguing stat for last.
Oh, right.
This is something that I found really interesting about Palace's approach to games.
Okay.
They've conceded the first goal in most of their home games this season.
Huh. That is interesting.
What do you make of that?
Well, it could be that they're actually quite comfortable conceding first.
Right.
You know? Maybe it plays into their hands a little bit.
How so?
Well, their counterattacking style is more effective when the opposition is pushing forward, leaving space in behind.
Right.
So perhaps they're quite happy to absorb some pressure early on, knowing they can exploit those gaps later in the match.
That's a really interesting way of looking at it.
It's a possibility, yeah.
So ultimately then, who do you think is going to win this one?
I mean, it's a tough one to call.
Yeah.
Palace are in great form, but Brentford will be desperate to get a result. It's a London derby, so anything could happen.
Yeah, it's got all the ingredients of a classic Premier League match.
Absolutely.
You know, tactical intrigue, individual brilliance, a bit of historical rivalry.
Yeah, it's a real toss-up.
That's the beauty of football, though, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Full of surprises.
Definitely.
So before we wrap up, I'd like to leave our listeners with something to think about.
Okay.
What do you think is going to be the decisive factor in this game?
Good question.
Let us know in the comments. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.
My pleasure.
We'll see you next time.
Take care.
Bye.